Hey, what's up guys? Next week there will be another Saw video, but today we'll take a look at another interesting movie that came out a few years ago, called The Belko Experiment. In the movie, the employees of a South American branch of the Belko company become trapped in their place of work. Not long after, the office turns into an absolute bloodbath where people start killing each other in a wild free-for-all. We're going to get into the details in a minute, but it's clear that a lot of people don't make it out alive. And throughout the story, there were quite a few deaths that were surprisingly avoidable, and today we're finding out what the most beatable death is. The movie starts off with an introduction to this isolated office. The employees, who have worked there for about a year, show up and get checked by armed guards. After that, they make it into the main building where we're introduced to all of our protagonists and their co-workers. Soon after, the building goes into lockdown, with every window and exit door being covered in a seemingly unbreakable metal. They're completely shut in, and a voice on the PA explains what will happen next. It tells the group that they need to kill 30 people in 2 hours, or else the company will remotely end 60 employees' lives total by detonating a chip they have already implanted in their heads. Now, one of the more avoidable deaths also happens to be the earliest, and it's Bud Nelks. Now, even if you've seen the film, you might not even remember who that is, and honestly I can't blame you, because his name is barely brought up. He's one of the supers in the building. Now, he has this young mentee called Alonzo. We see that the two actually get along pretty well, and they're more than just co-workers, they almost seem like friends. This makes what follows so much more sad. When the announcement says that 30 people need to die, and the threat is proven to be real by the company detonating some of the bombs at random, Alonzo is clearly starting to lose it. He becomes extremely jittery and nervous. To make matters worse, Bud hands him a bulky, heavy wrench which he should use to defend himself. With Alonzo slowly starting to freak out, Bud tries calming him. However, this doesn't work, and the young guy turns around and quickly slams the wrench on his mentor's head. Now, he clearly didn't mean to hurt him, and he was more in a state of extreme panic and shock. We see this by the instant regret that appears on his face. It was avoidable in a lot of ways, and one major thing that definitely didn't help was Bud giving this panicky guy a deadly weapon. Now, you can argue that Alonzo could have grabbed another sharp object in the room to kill Bud. However, the way this scene plays out, it becomes quite clear that it was more of a reflex kill, and it doesn't at all seem preemptive or planned. And this happens before the chaos really breaks out, so there were a couple more deaths that could have been avoided a lot easier in much tougher situations. For example, there's one moment where Leandra, who is the main character's girlfriend, could have easily saved 31 lives all at once. Now, when the PA system announced that the people needed to kill 30 employees, they were given a time limit of about 2 hours. If they didn't kill that many, the company would remotely detonate explosives until the total kill count is 60. Anyway, when the 2 hours are only a few seconds from being expired, the group has killed 29 people, meaning that they are one short of passing this stage. During these last few seconds, we see that Leandra is about to kill Terry, but before she kills him, he breaks down crying and begs her not to go through with it. Surprisingly enough, she does spare him, but this means that the time expires with 29 kills. Now the company will kill 31 more people to bring the number of total deaths to 60. And guess what's most ironic about this? One of the random people who gets blown up is Terry. Yeah, if you would have told her that, I guarantee you she wouldn't have been so nice. What's so painful about this is that she knows that 31 people will die if she doesn't kill them. She was given a warning ahead of time that they were one person short, and then she decided to save Terry. Now, Terry is actually kind of a likable character, so I'm not necessarily saying that Leandra should have killed him. All I'm saying is that the opportunity was there, and even though he begged her and said he had a family, she should have known that if she doesn't do it, there will be 31 others who will die. 31 other people who might also have a family and also have their own sob stories. Anyways, after these 60 deaths, the rules change and say that the person with the most kills within a certain time period will be the one who gets out alive, which is somehow even worse than what happened before. Now, the death that probably surprised me the most was the final kill inside the office. It's when Mike, our protagonist, fights Norris, one of the major douchebags. It's this big final battle where Mike, who plays this pacifist who refuses to kill others, he breaks his own rule and kills one of the violent guys that's been pushing him around this entire time. But Mike is unarmed, and he chooses to fight Norris, who has a military background, a firearm, more muscles, taller, and he's better looking. Not that that matters. Anyways, Norris, despite having all these qualifications and advantages, still somehow loses against Jim Halpert from The Office. He did the typical bad guy thing where even though he can probably reach for his gun and execute Mike right away, Norris says, "We're ending this in a fist fight." No. And Norris, as we'll see later in the video, has demonstrated the ability to kill Mike in a situation like this. Now of course I wasn't rooting for the bad guy to win, but there were a number of ways that Norris could have won and avoided his death, especially because he chases after Mike, which he doesn't even have to do. The rule at this point in the movie is the person with the most kills gets out alive, and Norris has to know that his bloodthirsty killing spree has had to have gotten him more kills than Mike, who is strictly against killing people for the entire time. I mean, before the free-for-all breaks out, Norris has already racked up 11 kills. That's a huge number in this game. What was Mike doing in this time? He was like sleeping on the staircase or something? So Norris could have just hid for the remainder of the time, simply wait out the clock and watch everyone's head explode and walk out as the winner. Next up is a death that is really just unnecessary, and I can't help but wonder what in the hell some of these characters were thinking. Towards the end of the movie, we see Mike's girlfriend Leandra encountering Perry. No, wait, that's Wendell. He's also one of the violent dudes, and he's hacking a dude with a meat cleaver to save bullets. Smart. Leandra shoots him to ensure the survival of herself, as well as these two stoners whom she befriended. But she only has one bullet in the gun. She shoots him in the side, but Wendell still lives, and then pulls out his gun and starts firing. Then this group has a pretty bizarre idea. They flip over a table and decide to push it to Wendell to kill him. Here Marty, one of the potheads, ends up getting shot dead through the table. And I mean, of course he was. This table has the thickness of a sheet of aluminum foil. What made you think this will save you? They could have easily ran away and increased their odds of surviving by a lot. I'll give Marty a pass though, because he was probably still pretty high from that fatty he smoked earlier. But come on man, seriously, who uses a cafeteria table as a shield against a pistol? That battle can only end one way. Now we're getting down to the quite easily avoidable deaths where there's almost no excuse for anyone to die. The next people I'll mention had all the information and capability to save themselves, but for some reason didn't. And those are the overseers and the people who run the show behind the scenes. Now when Mike ends up winning the game by killing Norris, he's carried out by two soldiers and gets brought into a shed where he meets the people responsible for what happened today. They talk for a while and it's revealed that they know that Mike still has a lethal weapon. He's carrying all the leftover bombs from the people who were killed but whose heads didn't explode. The stoner guys collected a bunch of them to make one big bomb with it, but eventually Mike ended up pocketing all of them. He then reveals that on his way out, he slipped a bomb into every soldier's uniform and one into the boss's chest pocket. Following this, he leaps over to the unsecured switchboard to detonate all the bombs. Now I don't quite know why they bring Mike this close to the detonators when they know he has bombs that can still go off.
We are not here to answer your questions. You are here to answer ours.
Well then I suppose you saw me pick up those explosives.
I'm not even saying it's bad writing. I can see it happening, but it's just not a good choice. And it's made pretty clear that these guys were able to see every little thing everyone does. If people try to cheat at any point, they knew about it. The guards could have easily searched his body and taken them away from him, as there's no reason for him to keep these deadly weapons after the game is over. The next death we'll look at is really something else. It's another one that made me wonder what some of these people were thinking. So in the middle of this total carnage, Norris is walking down this hallway. Then behind him this woman reveals herself and begs him not to kill her. Then she takes off her shirt and says, "I know what you want." Once more, I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I wouldn't doubt that somebody would legitimately try this. It's believable. But it's just a terrible strategy. So then Norris walks up to her and is like, "Shh, it's okay." After which he snaps her neck and says that he saved a bullet with this whack-ass encounter. I don't even know where to begin here. First of all, Norris was walking away from her. She doesn't have to beg him because he's not going to intersect with her. Like, do you know how vectors work? Doesn't matter. Then what are you even trying to do here? Like, where do you see this going? Look, you're a very beautiful woman, but you can't say in the middle of this intense chaos, "Hey, look at my now I get a free pass for life." It was a high-risk, low reward move that didn't work out. But now that we've covered some of the more beatable situations, let's get to the most avoidable deaths. It's actually two deaths sort of packed together. They happen in the same sequence. If you've watched the movie, you probably know where I'm going with this. It happens in the elevator shaft. One quite clever guy uses the elevators to climb on top of them into the elevator shaft to hide from the violent freaks roaming the hallways. He helps another woman up, and they sit here and plan their next move. However, then Norris goes into the elevator and rides it upstairs, and there's a space where, there's a wall here and the elevator is here, and it's going to bump into that. Both of them panic and scramble for a solution. The woman then steps off, but the guy stays on. The elevator then goes further to the top. With very little left to do, the guy jumps off too late and gets crushed in between two walls. Now, even during the first time I watched this, I was a little bit like, why don't they just step off when Norris walks into the elevator? I mean, it's pretty clear that he's going to go up or down. Obviously. And if he sees you, he'll kill you, so just get off. They had a lot of time to do this, by the way. And there are these pretty big blocks to their left and right. It's next to impossible to miss them because they're right there. The girl jumps off a little later than I would have, so the fact that it took the guy so long to understand that he can merely step off was quite surprising. The woman that saved herself later then crosses the elevator shaft and makes it to the other one and rides it to the lobby floor. And this is already a strange idea because that's where a lot of the killing happens. It's the most active place in this building and everyone knows this. So why would you go down here without even a weapon, knowing that there will be a loud sound when you reach the lobby? So when she arrives at this level, the door opens and she gets killed by Norris, Departed style. All this woman had to do was nothing. That would have been safer than entering the killing floor that is the lobby. Now yes, she probably can't win the game if she just hides, as she won't get any kills. But going into the main hall is basically a guaranteed death, especially when you don't have a weapon. So either wait up there and hope that everyone else gets killed, or go to a different level where not as many people are fighting. She also could have pressed the button in the elevator to go down, but then climb back up through the door. We see that the elevator has these rails which you might be able to step on to make it back up. Then when she reaches the bottom, she knows that it's too dangerous to exit, as there are gunshots heard and flames burning, filling the halls with smoke. And considering that Mike wins the game with one lousy kill, she could have drastically increased her odds by hiding and then surprise the attacking Mike, who's not even in the mood to fight anyways. So those were some of the most avoidable deaths in the Belko experiment. As always, I hope you liked it and that I get to see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.